Oh, hello. We are back and we are live. And if you are just tuning in and what's going on, I am not a sniper. I am real Chris Olsen. Chris Olsen taking over the hosting duties this week. Sean is still with us. If you can see the bottom of the screen, we have him for audio. He is on a trip, a bachelor party, so we hope he doesn't get too out of hand there. But we said to him, you might maybe take a sabbatical for this one. He said, no, I really want to break down home versus lad. I really want to break this card down. This is Random versus lad. See, I can't even do it right. This is my favorite card. So he's here with us on the audio. Sean, how we doing, buddy?
I'm good. I shouldn't be too out of hand. I am on my way there now. So maybe in the background you guys can hear the honking as I'm passing over the GW Bridge, the Throgs Neck Bridge, on my way into the Poconos. But I didn't want to miss this card. I really enjoyed talking to you guys, busting each other's chops. This is one of the things I look forward to. So I'm not hosting, but I can hold your hosting duties under a microscope. The one thing I am going to miss is the guys in chat. So, if there's banter and people calling me out in chat or, just funny comments, Chris, please don't miss out on those. I also really like that I got you to call yourself at Real Chris Olsen in the intro.
Yes. You know what, though, Chris? We got to give the millions of viewers a mental picture of Sean. He is cruising in his Mini Cooper with a blunt in one hand and a bag of pork rinds in the other.
Yeah, he does it right.
To this bachelor party, right? He's cruising and he's got his phone propped up in one of those holders in his car. And he's going to be taking the pork rind break, taking a little hit off the blunt, and he's working his way slowly down to a hidden destination for the bachelor party of all bachelor parties. And we don't know all the details, but I'd be surprised if there wasn't at least one death.
I'll be pretty surprised if I hit I'm going to hit the nuts this week and never make it back.
Oh my God. Well, I will buy like beneficiary insurance so I could cash on your behalf. So I was asked a question in chat, and then we'll get started. Did Joe find his way out of the woods in Minnesota? And yes, I did awaken at 4 a.m. this morning in my beautiful hotel over the flight path of Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport to make my 6:40 a.m. flight back to civilization. I do not know how people do it. Look, plenty of nice people in Minnesota. I get it. But it's not, how do I say, for me. So I'm happy to be home. I apologize to all of you who plan to see me on Alpha. Brett Apley did a solo pod, but we are ready to rock and roll.
And we are glad to have Joe all to ourselves here. He picked a more important podcast to go to. We all know what that is. So, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Let me just say first to follow all of us on Twitter. I am at Real Chris Olsen. Sean is at the DF Sniper, and Joe is at Sun Tzu. Before we get started, let me read the obligatory.
Chris, you're breaking up a little bit, volume-wise.
Okay. I thought it was me. Sweet, because I'm on the
No,
right.
it's Chris.
Am I good now?
Yeah.
But I can, from memory, say, make sure everybody go and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, RotoWire MMA. It's a replay of a live podcast that we do on Fridays on the YouTube channel from RotoWire. So thanks to them. Go to rotowire.com/free. 10-day free trial to all their premium content. No credit card required.
Word.
If you are listening after the fact, this is a replay of this live podcast. It will be on Stitcher. It will be on iTunes. If you're not here live, get it after the fact. It will be on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Now, how's my level, guys?
Better.
Now you're good.
Okay. So with that, and hopefully with no other hiccups, we will start off the night with our first hit on the card.
You're breaking up again, dude.
You're breaking up again.
Here, let me try this. I'm gonna take the headphones off. Hang on.
Why don't we do that?
Doo-doo. Doo-doo.
Hello?
Yeah, we hear you.
How's that?
Better.
Okay. Headphones are gone forever. That's it. Okay, so now that we're going, we are on to our first fight. It is Benito Lopez at 7,700 taking on Vince Morales at 8,500. Betting lines for this fight, we have Morales at minus 125. Comeback on Benito Lopez plus 115. I guess I will give my little spiel first, and then I'll throw it over to the guys. Benito Lopez is he's an explosive kickboxer, but he's not very functional in there. What I mean by that is I don't think he has a plan when he fights. I don't think his game is connected very well. Everything he seems to want to do seems very disparate. Vince Morales, on the other hand, is a pretty decent boxer, pretty nice in and out movement. He can grapple a little bit. He can do everything pretty well, but I prefer that to a guy who I don't really think has a plan. So I'm going with Morales here. I'm going to throw it over to let's go to Joe first. Joe, who you got in this matchup?
Yeah, so this is interesting. So apparently Lopez opened, and again, I realize that openers are soft and you really can't get a lot of money down on openers, but from what I understand, and maybe Sean can confirm this, Lopez opened at, I think, greater than a minus 2-1 favorite.
Yeah, it was like minus 250.
Yeah, in this fight, which is interesting how quickly the line flipped. And now it's tightening up a bit, but it's really interesting. I mean, Lopez was overmatched in his last fight. I did not look all that great. Obviously, it was it was a daunting task for him. I should also mention that Benito Lopez is in fact Brett Apley's favorite fighter, our good friend Brett. And I say that tongue in cheek. He's been following this guy's career, for a long time. But I mean, look, Manny Bermudez is a tough out. The fact that he got guillotined in the first round, I don't know that we should hold that against him. I'm not sure where either of these guys are going to go. This is the first of 6 Team Alpha Male fighters. If someone's got a minute while they're listening to this podcast and can look up what a 6-team alpha male parlay would pay and what an anti-alpha male parlay would pay, I would most appreciate it. I guess I'm going to go with Morales here for the slight ups. I'm sorry. I'm going to go with Benito Lopez here for the slight upset. Morales is okay. I mean, he's not, he's okay. I guess that's the best way to say it. I don't know that there's anything wrong with that. He beat him on Zahabi by unanimous decision. I guess if you're going to look for something here by way of a narrative, he did not get finished by Yadong Song. And he did win a fight in Bellator. He's got a deeper pedigree. He's also had some fights as an amateur. I'm on the fence about this. I'm on the fence here. I'll go with Lopez. I don't understand the line flip, but I'm going to take Lopez here.
Okay, Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, when it comes to that line flip, I say thank you, everybody, because I got Benito Lopez at plus money, and I'll take that all day. I did minus 2-1 was too high, but I think there's some value at plus money. Look, Chris hit on it, but I think Vince Morales is just okay everywhere. He's a well-rounded guy, close fight with Martin Day, tough guy. If he excels at anything, well, he doesn't excel at anything, but his best attribute is his boxing. That being said, Benito Lopez is the far more explosive striker, the better athlete, and he has some grappling. I think we got some recency bias going on from this Manny Bermudez fight, who is one of the best grapplers in that division. Benito Lopez can grapple. He has guillotines. He has front chokes. Like he's could have a grappling advantage in this fight. And as I mentioned, he's the more explosive guy. Throws just more volume. He has the higher ceiling both in his UFC career and in this fight. I don't know if I can go there in cash games, but I think he's a really good GPP play. I love his volume. I love that people are counting him out. I obviously think there's value there. He is the more UFC ready fighter in my eyes, even after that loss. And the line value, I really think it's just recency bias here. I mean, Vince Morales hasn't done a ton to impress me. The other narrative that Joe didn't mention on Vince Morales' side is he is the cousin of co-headliner Ricky Simone.
Did not know that.
Take that for what you will. This is the first time they're ever fighting on the same card together. There's only so much blood is going to do there. He's not the grappler that his cousin is. Give me Benito Lopez to get this one down. If I had to pick one, I think he's live to the knockout, but in all honesty, even though I'm playing a ton in GPP, the most likely outcome here is Benito Lopez by decision.
Yeah, and this could be a really low-scoring fight. I mean, Moraes only scored 60 in a decision win against, in his last fight against Sahabi, and he got in two UFC fights 0 takedowns. So you're not going to get any grappling points out of Moraes. So I see this as kind of a low floor fight in general, and the only reason I'm probably going to have some Lopez is for line value.
That makes sense to me. Okay, let's go on to the next fight. We have Lívia Souza at sorry, I lost my place. 8,000 taking on the newcomer Brianna Van Buren at 8,200. Betting odds on this fight: Renata Souza is at plus 105. Brianna Van Buren at minus 115. And we'll go to Sean first here. I see this as kind of a close fight. Sean, how do you see it breaking down?
Yeah, I have it pretty close. So Brianna Van Buren won the Invicta Phoenix Uprising tournament, beating the likes of Kaylin Curran, some Indian chick I don't remember, and Joe, who's the other one? Was it Jamie Moyle?
No. Well, she has a victory over Jamie Moyle. It was Powell, right?
No, it was Julianna Lima.
Yeah, Lima.
Look, she's a wrestler. She has the AKA DC connection. Lívia Souza, everyone's high in her, and I get it. She's got a win over Sarah Froda. And God, I wish this is where the car is killing me. I think the first one is Alex Chambers, correct? Or her 2 UFC wins?
Yes, Alex Chambers, the other one.
So neither one of those are super impressive. I know Sarah Froda was big, but she's like, before that fight, we were all talking trash about her. I need to see a little more from Souza. She's got a good BJJ game, and that's really her strength. Van Buren is a control wrestler. That's really what's interesting here. So you go 2 grapplers. I always favor the wrestler in that, assuming she can stay out of a submission. So Souza's alive to a submission. Can't doubt that. On the feet, well, neither one of them are good. I lean towards Brianna Van Buren to be a little quicker, and a little slicker on the feet. If it should be one of those 2 grapplers stand and trade, I kind of lean towards her. And in terms of high scoring for ceiling for GPPs, Van Buren's at the takedown upside. I think the only way that Souza scores big is with the quick submission, and I don't like relying on that against a power wrestler, because it means she's going to have to be in top position, or she's going to have to get a sub from bottom position. She's not going to be in top position. So I lean towards Van Buren in the fight. Super close. Can't knock anybody for taking Souza. But in terms of DraftKings, I am not very interested in this fight overall, but I'll have more of Van Buren just because it's that mid-range fight. These fights find their way into optimals more often than not. So give me Brianna Van Buren, but I'll probably be underweight.
Yeah. Before I throw it to Joe, I realized I didn't make a pick, and since I am the host, I can pretty much do what I want. So I'm going to go now. I think I lead Van Buren here as well. I like the power wrestling. A win over Julianna Lima is no joke. She was able to pick her up and slam her, pretty much do whatever she wanted. The Lívia Souza takedowns are very much more like head and arm throws, sometimes trips. In fact, in that Frota fight, she was pretty much just going for the same leg trip every time. And by the 3rd round, Frota was wise to it and just sort of sprawling out pretty much every time. Now, I do agree with Sean that on the feet, I don't love either one of these women. I think that Van Buren bounces around a little more. She's in and out a little more. I think it's a little closer there. I agree with Sean. I think Van Buren is the play. I do think that this fight could score a little higher because the winner could be getting a bunch of takedowns and maybe a sub. So I tend to go a little higher than Sean, but my pick is Van Buren. And now, Joe, if you would, please.
Okay, so I honestly don't think it's that close a fight at all. I am not going to belittle anybody who fights 3 times in one night and wins, but it wasn't exactly a murderer's row. I mean, the only reason Caitlin Curran lasted as long as she did in the UFC was because of her looks. I mean, everybody, including the ushers, beat her in fights. I've been following Souza since all her Invicta fights. I watched most of them. She actually has a 5-inch height advantage over Van Buren, who's only 5 feet tall. Souza is 13-1. Her only loss is a split decision loss to Angela Hill. Souza should dominate here. I mean, if she plays the game at reach and selectively works for some of those throws, I mean, she's beaten natural 125er. She's going to be the far bigger woman in the ring, in the octagon. I like her here a fair bit, and I do believe that this line is going to flip. It's currently plus 100. I think this line is going to flip by fight time, so that will create some odds value for Souza. I'll have a few shares of Van Buren because of her wrestling, but I like Souza. I don't see her getting finished. I see her as a really safe play for cash with a pretty solid floor, Souza, but I like her a fair bit to win here.
All right, so a little bit of, I wouldn't call that controversy, but maybe maybe a first real disagreement of the night. But we move on to the next fight, which is Jonathan Martinez versus Lu Pingyuan. Pingyuan is our favorite, 8,700. Martinez is the underdog, will cost you 7,500 as far as the odds go in this fight. Martinez is a plus 140 dog. Pingyuan is at minus 150. I have to say, I like Jonathan Martinez a fair bit. I like him a fair bit as a prospect. Now, there's not a ton to his game. Basically, a kicking game and a wrestling jiu-jitsu game. Not so much wrestling, more jiu-jitsu. In fact, he's vulnerable to takedowns because I think he relies a bit too much on his scrambling game. I don't think that should be an issue against Pingyuan, who, pressures you, has a little bit of a boxing game, can counter a little bit. But in his last fight, he was actually getting, chewed up a little bit by those kicks from Martin Day, and I think they slowed him down a little bit towards the end of the fight, to be honest. I think Martinez can do a little bit of the same thing. I think Pingyuan is sort of untested, and I don't see anything in his game that I really love to threaten Martinez. Even if he did go to a wrestling game, I like Martinez to out-scramble him, as he has done in his other fights. And, yeah, I just like Martinez to win the day here. So I'm taking the dog, and we will start with Joe for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Martinez looked good in his last fight against Urijah Buren. He was a slight favorite in that fight. I'm not thrilled with the Sukhimatov loss. I mean, Sukhimatov can strike. That's one thing he has going for him. Lou has not exactly had the hardest road, in this new invasion of Chinese fighters. Martin Day split decision. I don't honestly remember much about that fight. He was a minus 185 favorite going into that fight. Damon Stasiak, that was pretty much an even fight, money-wise. I don't know what to do here, really. I'll have shares of both guys. I don't love the fight as a whole. I think it's destined to end in a decision and likely low scoring. So I'll probably have, some shares. I mean, I'm not thrilled with, I guess the pricing's fair, but I don't expect I'm going to have a lot of this fight. And, Martinez as a dog at 7.5K is probably the preferred DraftKings play. Although, again, he scored 76 in his last fight, which, you'll take at 7.5K. So, maybe that's something to look at. And I will probably have far fewer shares of Lou. I can't see myself paying 8.7K. There's just too much value on this card. And he's only scored 74 and 56 in his 2 wins. So I'm going to go with Martinez. I'll have a few shares of Lou. I'd be shocked if this ended in a finish. This has got decision written all over it. But give me Martinez here for a slight upset.
All right, so I'm heavy on Martinez. Joe is Martinez, but not that sure. Sean, you got a definitive take here?
Yeah, and we're going to be splitting this because I like Pingyuan Lu a little bit here.
Oh.
To me, the issue is I think Pingyuan Lu is bigger. I think Martinez might have a striking advantage in terms of being quick, but I don't think I'm not overly concerned about it. And the grappling here, Pingyuan Lu can grapple, and Joseph Martinez, if you can get him down, he does not look good on the ground to me.
That's surprising. Go ahead.
I think that is going to be the issue in this fight. I think if Pingyuan Lu can get it down, I think he could end in the finish. I think he's got the highest ceiling for that reason. Sorry, guys, I'm going through a neighborhood here. Yeah, I just.
By the way, he only has a 1-inch height advantage. Just FYI.
Does he? Then, unless I'm remembering it wrong, I think he's going to be the thicker guy here.
Could
I
be.
think he's just going to be.
He's definitely more muscle. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Right, and to me, Martinez will win a striking-based decision that, isn't terribly exciting. I think Lou has some upside here. I think, as I mentioned, he's got a grappling advantage. Yeah, give me Pingyuan Lou. I'm not going to be overweight. It's not one of my core plays, but I'm not going to be shying away from him. So give me Pingyuan Lou. I won't have a ton of Martinez.
All right. Kind of surprising to me. I think that Martinez has the grappling advantage as well, but
Oh, he looks really?
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, okay, he plays guard more than I think he should, but that's just because he's so confident in his guard game. I mean, he swept Buren at least 3 or 4 times in their fight. I think he's comfortable off his back, maybe a bit too comfortable, as I said, but I like his jiu-jitsu quite a bit, actually. So we'll see. That might be a sticking point here.
We will see. I think if it goes to the mat, I think he's going to not be able to get back up.
All right, so that'll be an interesting thing to watch. Okay, next fight. It is everybody's favorite, the leg lock wizard Ryan Hall at 8,300, taking on Darren Elkins at 7,900. The odds for this fight are as follows, as I vamp while I look for them.
Welcome to my world, my friend. Welcome to my world.
I never appreciated how tough a job Sean had until right this second, but we're getting through it. It is Ryan Hall at plus 105. Come back on Darren Elkins minus 115. I'm going to say at the outset here that I actually enjoy watching Ryan Hall. I think that puts me in the minority of fight fans.
But not on this podcast.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
He's different, and I do have to admit, the fact that he pisses people off gives me some pleasure.
I agree 100%. So I'm glad I have at least one brother in arm there. We'll see how Joe feels. But, yeah, look, Ryan Hall, the reason why I think Darren Elkins has only been subbed once in his career, if I remember correctly. And it would be hard. You might think, well, that's his only path to victory, Ryan Hall. And if Elkins doesn't get subbed, then it might be tough. The reason why I think Hall gets his sub here is because part of Elkins' boxing game is to make it dirty and connect with you. That's part of the way he fights, and that's all Ryan Hall wants. Ryan Hall comes up with new and interesting ways to try and connect with fighters. He'll throw wild techniques like spinning back fists just so that you can advance and he can move in on you. Now, he'll do his Imanari rolls too, but he has more interesting ways to get a fight to the floor than someone like an Ian Entwistle did, who just would sort of shoot and get himself knocked out. I think Darren Elkins would probably, I would say, definitely have a boxing advantage. But Ryan Hall, when he does stay on his feet, he likes to stay at a long-range kicking game. So I think he's going to be all the way in or all the way out until he gets what he wants. Now, Ryan Hall, for DraftKings, it's not really that great. Usually not that great of a play, because if he doesn't get his first round sub, he doesn't really get takedowns, as I said, and he's not a high volume striker, so that could end up with low output. I actually think he gets his first round sub here. I'm on Ryan Hall. I think this is a sub waiting to happen, but let's see what these guys think. And right now we will start with Sean. What do you think?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. The one thing I wanted to add is that that one sub was against Dubronx, another submission specialist.
That's
the
right.
The first thing Darren Elkins does in that fight is take him down. Like, what are you thinking? Not the best fight IQ. He's tough. I get it. Also on the decline of his career, it's more of an issue. What do you do for DraftKings? It's a mid-range fight. Ryan Hall's fights are going to go one of 3 ways. Quick sub for him. Eventually, he's going to hold on to his sub too long, a leg lock too long, and get knocked the hell out. Or boring stand-up. I tend to think it's not going to be. I pick and Hall to win. I don't think Elkins is the guy to pin him down and pound him out of there. Hall has shown some toughness in his UFC loss. Yeah, give me Ryan Hall.
Joe.
Yeah, this has the potential to be a very ugly fight.
Agreed.
Right now, there is line value on Darren Elkins. He's minus 120 as we speak. He has got an extremely solid.
I'm sorry, the line flipped?
Yeah, it's minus 120 Elkins. So there's line value now on Elkins. The other thing is, excuse me, it's very, very solid floor. I mean, even in a loss, the lowest point total in recent DraftKings history that Darren Elkins has ever had is 36. So, and this obviously doesn't go back to 2010 when he lost by Bronx, because we all know there was no DraftKings back then. But in all of his DraftKings lines, his worst score is 36 points. With line value, I have a feeling that Elkins is going to be pretty highly owned. Hall, on the other hand, I see as being an all-ceiling kind of guy. I mean, you look at his last 3 wins, okay, so he submitted, the cocaine ghost of BJ Penn. Fine. Okay.
The cocaine ghost.
In his 2 wins against Maynard and the GOAT, Lobov, 53 and 50. Do I want to pay $8.3K for 50 points? Not really. So if you're playing Hall, okay, he is a high ceiling, low floor kind of guy, and he better get the finish in the first round, possibly the second round, because he's not going to throw a lot of strikes, and he's not going to actually go aggressively wrestle for takedowns. So I'm going to pick. Oh gosh, can I really pick Darren Elkins? Oof.
Damage.
You can pick Hall and say Elkins the better draft.
Yeah.
Even
35.
though I disagree with you.
Yeah. I feel bad for Darren Elkins because he has no friends, because he had friends, they wouldn't let him get that tattoo across his chest. So yeah, I guess. Okay, I'll pick Hall to win here. I mean, I would not recommend having a lot of shares of Hall on DraftKings, and I would sure as hell not recommend playing him in cash, where, Elkins has got that GPP upside. He scored as much as 120 something points in a fight, and he's got a pretty stable floor. And as long as there continues to be odds value or line value here on Elkins, I would expect him to be fairly popular. So, yeah.
That it?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll call to win, but I think Elkins is a far better DraftKings play.
Okay. It's sort of an abrupt ending from Joe.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I was lost in thought.
Oh, that's fine.
Yes.
We will move on to our next fight, which is Julianna Peña versus everyone's other favorite, Nicco Montaño. Julianna Peña comes in at 9,000. Nicco Montaño, the dog, at 7,200. Odds on this fight. Nicco Montaño comes in at plus 167. Peña is the minus 178 favorite. I actually think Nicco Montaño is a fairly underrated striker. I like her movement. I think she throws well in combination. My problem here is that the physicality of Peña, I think, is just going to be too much. I think she's going to be able to take her down at will. I think it's going to lead to a sub. I think if Montaño can keep this on the feet, it's a closer fight, although I wouldn't give it to her outright. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Peña overpowers her, outmuscles her, gets her takedowns, and does whatever she wants. We will start with, and the first time I get to say this, the MMA chick whisperer. Joe, what do you think about this fight?
Yeah, so the Venezuelan vixen, Julianna Lima, coming off almost a 2-year layoff, which culminated in motherhood. The record of female fighters first fight back from motherhood is not great. I do not have the stats in front of me, so this is very anecdotal on my part, but just looking at fighters who have come back from motherhood, I don't recall their records being that great. Let's be honest. Julianna Peña was limited, as a fighter. I mean, Val had a pretty easy time with her. Nicco Montaño, on the other hand, I mean, she was DraftKings gold in her one stat line against Roxanne Modafferi, putting up 158 DraftKings points, which included 3 takedowns, 1 reversal, and 5 advances. So, and again, I don't know what level of training Julianna Peña's doing. I don't know what she feels she is going to accomplish here. I really like 7.2K for Nicco Montaño. I do not like paying up for Julianna Peña. So I am going to pick an upset here. I'm going to take Nicco Montaño. I'm going to take her to win the fight, probably by decision, maybe by late stoppage if Peña gasses out. But I'm sure as hell not going to pay $9K to have a lot of shares of Peña when, her stat line is such that, she hasn't really scored well on DraftKings in 4 years. And that was against Dudeva and someone who is no longer probably even fighting. So yeah, I'll go with Nicco here. And honestly, Peña has not exactly been a takedown machine herself. 1, 1, 3, 1. So we're talking 6 takedowns in her last 4 fights. That's not a takedown machine. So give me Nicco for the upset here. It's a ceiling play at 7.2K. Although I'd be surprised if she got finished by Julianna early. Never know. But give me Nicco at 7.2K.
Interesting. I'm going to point out just before I throw it to Sean that this is actually a long layoff fight for both. Nicco Montaño also hasn't fought since that debut against Roxy Modafferi. She had some issues with the organization, and then I think she got a USADA.
She did. Yep.
Okay, so long layoff for both fighters. We'll see how it plays out. Sean, who do you got here?
Yeah, I have Lima. I know Montaño could be improving, but I got to see it. USADA concerns me. The narrative on Peña does scare me. I also think she could just play the safe. She could get a takedown with her top game, just kind of lay there, not score a bunch, old school lay and pray. I'm pretty worried about that. I don't have much interest in Montaño, even though I think she's live, because I think there are dogs with much higher ceilings. One who we already talked about, Lopez, 2 more coming up. That I don't need a ton of Montaño. Her path to victory is this kind of slow-paced stand-up decision, I think, or I don't think she's going to win all 3 rounds. I think if Montaño wins, it'll be a really close fight. I want some Peña because it's grappling based, but like Joe said, she's not incredibly active. I'm worried about the layoff. Peña wins, but temper your expectations.
All right. You heard from Sean, temper your expectations. I like Peña a little more, but the point about her not being as active and not scoring well lately is granted. Okay, next fight up on the card is an interesting one, and one where I know we're going to disagree a little bit. It is Sheymon Moraes at 8,400 versus Andre Fili at 7,800. The odds on this fight are almost dead even. Plus 100, even money for Sheymon Moraes, and Andre Fili comes back at a minus 110 according to 5 times. Now, I think this is a really good spot for Sheymon Moraes, especially at this price. And I'll tell you why. I think that Moraes is probably the most explosive striker that Fili's ever fought. In his last fight against Miles Jury, he didn't have to do a whole lot, just stick a jab in his face and throw a low kick. That's not going to work here, specifically as we saw in the Sadiq Youssef fight, that Sheymon Moraes is really good at checking leg kicks. Maybe, and I say this without exaggeration, maybe the best guy in the UFC at consistently checking those leg kicks. So that's going to be a problem. On the other hand, Andre Fili sticks that leg way out there. He's not much of a leg checker. And Sheymon Moraes is a demon kicker. And we saw him in the Sadiq Youssef fight. We saw him as that fight went on. We saw him make reads and really was on his way to winning that fight until taking a hard shot in the 3rd round, going down, and then you didn't have any other choice but give the fight to Youssef. But I think this is a good spot for Sheymon Moraes at a good price. I think he's going to be more explosive. I think he's going to hit harder, and I think he's just got the more developed game. We could see Fili go for those takedowns. I don't know how much joy he's going to have. He's not the most accomplished wrestler in the world, although he can get them. But I'm not too concerned about that myself. I am big on Sheymon Moraes here, but we will see what these guys think, and we will start with Joe for this one.
Okay, so there is line value now on Fili, obviously, right? The line is flipped. There's line value on Fili. There's also some narrative that I really like about Moraes. He did this camp in Thailand. The last time I faded a fighter who did his camp in Thailand, his name was Khalil Roundtree, and he just decimated your boy. I think the problem is he's such a poor DraftKings play. Moraes, he's never scored. His high DraftKings score has been 67. And his other win, he scored 66. He's not a super active striker. He typically doesn't go for takedowns. He's got 2 takedowns in 4 fights. Fili, on the other hand, has been much more prolific a scorer on DraftKings. Miles Jury, 79, not great, not bad. A loss to Johnson, 32, is a split decision loss. And then in wins against Bermudez and Lobov, he scored 93 and 102. So, Fili is the more prolific scorer. He seems to be the more active striker. He will occasionally go for takedowns. He had 5 against Lobov, 4 against Bermudez, 2 against Johnson. And then for whatever reason, none of us really understood why he just kept it. I guess he was afraid of Miles Jury's jiu-jitsu. But it was totally a stand-up fight. So, but he did land 98 significant strikes. So at 7.8K, if you're looking for 10X, you'd probably take the 79 points. And again, there is line value now, given that the odds flipped. However, I'm going to pick Moraes to win, but I think it's going to be a really boring, low-scoring fight. So I think Fili is probably the fighter with more upside on DraftKings, and I think he's going to be higher owned because of the line value. So I'll pick Moraes to win, but I think Fili might actually be the better DK play.
All right, Sean, what about you?
Yeah, I like Fili a bit here. I got him before the line flipped at plus money. Look, Sheymon Moraes is live. I'm not going to fade him, and I do think if he wins, it'll be a knockout. I think that's his best chance. He does have power, and to catch Fili early. Moraes has slowed down. I know he's doing this camp in Thailand, and maybe that'll help his cardio. We'll see. Fili with the takedown game, I think. While Sheymon's got a good get-up game, I think that really could help for DraftKings scoring. I'm getting a sense we could see some rinse and repeat takedowns. I like Fili on the outside using his movement. Moraes has kind of that, the Muay Thai, a little bit of a plotting style. He is the more technical power striker. I like Fili's movement. I like the potential for grappling here. There's a lot to like about Andre Fili for me. But I can't fade Sheymon Moraes flat out. The odds value here, I do think Fili will be chalk, so I'm going to eat a little bit of chalk here. I like Andre Fili. Don't mind the sprinkle of Sheymon in GPPs.
I will say that I take the point that Moraes has historically been a low striker. I think this is his coming out party. I'm going to save, you may have already guessed it, but I'll formally announce it on Hot Takes. But for right now, we're going to move on.
Although I will say, if Sheymon wins this fight after this Thailand camp, like he looks like a new fighter again after Khalil Roundtree, there's going to be 20 fighters in Thailand.
I know.
Monday.
They're all going to get on the bus. That's right. Okay, so the next fight up should be a barn burner. Could be a high-scoring match either way. It is John Allan taking on slow Mike Rodriguez. Rodriguez is the big DraftKings favorite here, 9,400. John Allan, as the debuting fighter, 6,800. Odds on this fight reflect that. Mike Rodriguez, minus 410. John Allan, plus 365. I think, let me say in the outset, I think Mike Rodriguez wins this fight. I think these odds are very wide for two kickboxers who are just going to throw at each other until somebody falls, which is what I think is going to happen. We've seen Mike Rodriguez. He had a tough loss to Devin Clark. John Allan is not a takedown guy from what we have seen, so he shouldn't have to worry about that. The reason I'm picking Rodriguez here, I just think he has a little better understanding of range. John Allan, even in that Vincius Moraes fight that he had on the Contender Series, tends to swing really wide. I do like the fact that he does body head work, but he tends to swing really wide, and we've seen Mike Rodriguez catch guys on counters before. I just think he's the better put-together striker. And I also think he's vulnerable to leg kicks, John Allan, that is. So I think both those are two big keys in Mike Rodriguez's favor here. But as I said, I like John Allan's body head work. He hits hard. Mike Rodriguez could get knocked out here, make no mistake about it. But I think that the more likely outcome is Mike Rodriguez puts John Allan to sleep. Rather, I like him fair amount here, although, again, I do think the line is closer. But we'll see what these guys think, and we will start for Sean for this one. How do you see in this?
Yeah, I think the line's about right. I think Mike Rodriguez should run through Allan, or Allan. I think it's Allan. I could be wrong. I'm going to say it fancy, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
All right, go for it.
He could not finish Vinicius Moreira on the feet. Couldn't do it. And then he got taken down and subbed. I mean, that's fine. But stand-up fight with Mike Rodriguez. Mike Rodriguez, the better kickboxer. 205ers. I suspect this fight's not going to last a long time. If it gets out of the over 1.5 hits, it could be really sloppy overall. I'm not saying go all in on Mike Rodriguez, but it's not super hard to fit the most expensive fighter on the card in your lineups this week. So give me plenty of Rodriguez. I do think he gets it done early in this one. Just a better fighter here.
See, we definitely have some contention there, which is odd because we're both picking the same guy to win the fight. But I just don't see this as the run over that you do. Sure, he could. I think this happens a lot with fighters. He lost to a guy who is limited, but his opponent here is not going to have a takedown game, and that's why he lost their other fight. So I'm not really sure how that's relevant here. I'm just saying, Allan is still dangerous. I think he's very, very dangerous, and I think Mike Rodriguez has to be careful.
Yeah, I don't think the line is wide enough. Honestly, we
got one. It's too wide. We got one is about right, and one it's way the hell off.
Yeah, this is a gimme. The UFC is feeding him this guy. The fight with Jean Vellante would have been a much better fight. Obviously, that's a fight that fizzled. I guess Vellante got hurt. Honestly, man, this guy Allan. Like, when do you see a guy with 5 losses making his UFC debut? This is a tailor-made fight for Mike Rodriguez. I mean, it's gonna remain standing. Oh, did anyone mention the 7.5-inch reach advantage that he has? No. 7.5 inches, dude. He's got an 82.5-inch reach at 6'4", and at 6'3", Allan's only got a 75-inch reach. Come on, guys. My only fear here is that he knocks him flat in the first round, and I only get 100 points. Because, I'll get the 10 points for the knockdown and the 90 for the finish. That's my fear here. I think this line could be 6-7 to 1. Now, I get it. People are going to say, 6-7 to 1 for a guy with, one UFC win. This other guy, 13-5, and his wins are all against cans. At least Rodriguez is a finisher. When he fights cans, he finishes them. Rodriguez all day, every day. And to Sean's point, with the line value out there, it should not be that hard to get him in a lot of your lineups.
So just to satisfy my curiosity, at 6,800, the heavy-handed kickboxer, you guys aren't hedging at all at 6,800 in this fight. You're going 100%.
If I'm going to hedge somewhere, it's with Wellington Turman, but we'll get there.
I totally agree with Sean. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well,
I'm not going to say I'm a multi-entry player. So will I have a share? Yeah, of course. I have a share of everybody. But I'm not going to have more than 1 or 2%.
All right. Well, I am still going to caution players to hedge a little bit, but that will have to remain a point of contention as we move on to our next fight, which is Marvin Vettori at 8,600, taking on Cezar Ferreira at 7,600. Line on this fight, Vettori comes in minus 150. Cezar Ferreira comes in at plus 140. I think it might be surprising to see Vettori as the favorite here. At least it was for me. I know Ferreira has slipped a little bit of late. Not only does he lose to Ian Heinisch, but he didn't look great against Nate Marquardt in his last fight, even though he did win that fight. Here's my problem with Ferreira is that he's a very predictable kickboxer. It's basically just a straight left hand and a body kick. And as we've seen, the reason I picked Ferreira against Ian Heinisch was because I thought he would get his share of takedowns in top position, and he did, and he couldn't do anything with it. That troubles me. Marvin Vettori is at least a decent grappler. He's got a decent boxing game, a decent kicking game. My problem with him, he doesn't move his head. I saw some grumbling there. I heard some grumbling there. We'll get to it in a minute.
That was a sneeze from Joe.
Oh, okay. I thought we were having a problem, but that's all right. Vettori doesn't move his head. He kind of stands right in front of you. I still think he's going to be able to pour the pressure on Ferreira, and I think that if Ferreira can't get his takedown game working, or more properly stated, if he can't get his jiu-jitsu game working, he's going to be in for a little bit of trouble here. Close fight for me. I have a feeling Ferreira is going to be a little bit popular as the dog here, as the more experienced fighter. The more proven finisher for sure. I think I'm going to go Vettori just by a slight margin, but this is a close fight for me, kind of a toss-up. We'll start with Sean. What do you think here?
Yeah, I'm going to lean towards Vettori in this one. The problem with Montaño is I don't know how he gets this fight to the ground. Vettori has got good takedown defense, stood in there with Omari Akhmedov, didn't get taken down a ton, decent striking, and we've seen Ferreira with chin issues. He's changed his style a lot to kind of protect his chin, but I'm still worried about it if he gets in a striking match here. So I hedge Vettori that way. I think it's going to be a stand-up fight. Even if Ferreira's chin holds up, Vettori should win the stand-up. If it's, I'll have a couple shares of Montaño because if it hits the ground, he's got a good sub game. Even if he didn't look good against Heinisch, I don't think Vettori's grappling is quite there. I think Vettori's strength is keeping it up, which is what I think will happen. So I'll have both sides. I'm not terribly interested in this fight in DraftKings. I don't see a quick finish here. I don't think Montaño is going to be able to run through him. So unless the chin is totally gone, the one person who could put up 100 would be Vettori. So I'll have some more shares of him. But overall, I think I have Marvin Vettori winning this fight.
Okay. Next fight up. Sorry.
How about, do I get to make a pick?
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We were gonna just slide by it this time, but you couldn't. So
look, I think Montaño has a fairly solid floor. Even in his losses, 41, 27, he's got a solid floor. And if he wins, there's definitely upside with all the grappling points. So I will have shares of him. I'm not sure what to make of Vettori. I mean, I'm not crazy about his price at 8.6K. The value is clearly with Montaño. Did we give the odds here? I think we're looking currently at minus 155. Vettori come back on Ferreira on Montaño is plus 135. Maybe those odds will tighten up a little bit. I think, Montaño is live. I don't know. Again, Vettori has been out for a while. I do like that he trains at King's. I think that is a good camp for him. And he has looked good. He was able to, take down Adesanya, which, we know is kind of his kryptonite. Gosh, I want to pick Montaño here to get the upset. I mean, he's 34 years old, though. He does have a 4-inch reach advantage. I don't know that that's going to matter here. Got a 15-month layoff. Okay. Why not? I'm going to go for the upset here. I'll pick Montaño. I like 7.1K. I like his floor. I think his ceiling is good. I'll go with Montaño for the 7.6K price tag.
Yeah, I can't argue with it. As I said, more experienced fighter, more proven finisher. We know he has a skill set to get fights done, even though he hasn't recently, and should be an interesting fight. I'm excited to see that one. But for right now, we are moving on. We are going to Karl Roberson at 9,100, taking on another newcomer. What is his first name?
Wellington.
Wellington, thank you. Wellington Turman at 7,100. The line on this fight is Darren coming back at plus 185. Karl Roberson at minus 200. Now, look, I think we can all pretty much agree that Karl Roberson has shown himself to be the real deal on the feet. He's a good, powerful kickboxer. He's very good, I think, underrated at dodging strikes and countering. I think he's very good at that. Problem is that we've seen in the UFC that when he's come against grapplers, he hasn't done well. He's been subbed out against Montaño, as we just mentioned, against Glover Teixeira. And look, Turman is a really single strike, lungy kickboxer, but he has his takedowns. He can get takedowns against the fence. He's very strong. He can use the body locks, and it's going to be hard to trust Roberson if he does end up on his back because of how we've seen him before. Having said that, if he can keep it on the feet, I think he's going to be able to do a lot of damage here. I think his advantage on the feet is very large, but he's going to have to deal with these takedowns, and we're going to have to see. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give the edge to Roberson, and I'm going to say he knocks him out here. I'm not going to. Turman does have a takedown game. I don't think it's consistent enough. Again, he needs it against the fence. He's not much of a double legger. I think Roberson should be able to use his footwork at least somewhat. So I'm going to go Roberson here. But again, there is a well-recognized pass for Turman. Sean, what do you think about this?
Yeah, Wellington Turman is 22-15-2. So, he's Brazilian. That's what you can chalk that up to. Look, Roberson should torch him on the feet. He's willing to strike, but it's because he's fighting cans. I think he's a grappler who's too comfortable with the striking. If he does that here, he's going to get knocked out. You mentioned the issues Roberson's had. Now, those are really high-level grapplers he's fought, at least in Glover Teixeira, which you can argue he won that fight because Teixeira was definitely out for a minute, hit the canvas, woke back up, but neither here nor there. Roberson should finish him, but this is where I'll hedge a little bit because if the fight hits the mat, I think Roberson's in big, big, big trouble. But yeah, Roberson should finish this quick. It's minus 190 to end inside the distance. I like this fight quite a bit for GPPs because I think one way or another it is going to end inside the distance. But Roberson is the preferred play and really should get a quick knockout here.
Pretty much agreed on all counts. I think that is the standard dynamic. Joe, you have a different take, or are you pretty much leaning in that direction?
Not really. It's just how you play this fight. So Roberson has a floor of 2 and a ceiling of 107 in his UFC career. So this is not your definition of a cash fighter here. The only point I want to make about Wellington is that in his two losses were against fighters that had a 30-6 combined record. So they weren't really bad losses. And he does have a path to victory here. So it's worth having a few shares of him in GPPs, but this is strictly a GPP fight. I think you need exposure to it for that reason. I will pick Roberson to win, but just be cognizant of what his floor is.
All right. And okay, now we're going to go to what I view as a really interesting fight. It is Mirsad Bektic versus Josh Emmett. Bektic is the favorite at 8,800. Josh Emmett coming in as maybe somewhat of a surprising underdog at 7,400. The odds on this fight are Emmett as plus 135. Mirsad Bektic is a minus 145 favorite. I am a big fan of Josh Emmett. I've said it on this podcast before. I think his combination of quick movements in and out and power is pretty rare. I think guys generally have one or the other. We've seen Emmett with literal one-shot fight-ending power. Sean, did we lose you?
No, that was me honking at somebody on the GW.
Okay. There you have it, folks. You got a live report on the road there from Sheymon.
I will say, if you're not using Waze, you really should be. I know that's like something from 4 years ago, but definitely just saved me at least 2 hours.
There you go, and a little bit of an unsponsored plug there as well. But
they should sponsor this podcast.
That's right. Yeah. Hey guys, hit us up. We just gave you some free advertising. But getting back to the fight, I think that we've seen the Josh Emmett power on display in a few fights, most recently, of course, in the Michael Johnson fight where nothing was really happening until Emmett knocked him flat. The thing about Mirsad Bektic is even if he does have an advantage on the feet, which I'm not so sure about in this fight, he just loves grappling. He can't help himself. We saw that, of course, to his detriment in the Darren Elkins fight. And we also saw it to a lesser extent in the Ricardo Lamas fight where he probably could have done more in that fight, but just chose to take the fight where he was a little bit less of a favorite, if not unequal footing. I like Emmett to do his little in and out darting. I like him to get quick strikes in. I don't think that Mirsad Bektic can control him on the ground. He's been a notoriously tough guy to take down. I like Emmett. I think this is probably going to be one of those fights where you get like a decision that doesn't have a lot of strikes in it. I don't think many guys are going to have success on the ground here. I think this is going to stand up the whole way. I do expect Emmett to edge it out. But for me, although it is a very interesting fight as a fan and to watch, I think on DK, it leaves a little something to be desired. But, Joe, you agree with my take or are you targeting?
Yeah, I mean, it could very well be that way. Look, I mean, Bektic, neither one of these guys are super active strikers, right? Bektic gets the majority of his points through grappling. I mean, he is not in DraftKings. He has not thrown more than 60 significant strikes in, any of his fights. So if you take away the grappling points, you're not going to get a very high score. With that said, his floor has been pretty good. I mean, even in his loss, obviously his loss to the Damage, he scored 74 points in a fight that he was winning. And, honestly, he's only got one loss in his UFC career. So, this is like if Bektic wants to move to the next level, he's going to have to impressively defeat Emmett. With that said, we all know what Emmett can do. Emmett has got less of a floor. He certainly has as high a ceiling. And at his price, you certainly want to target him in GPPs. However, the risk here is that if this is purely a stand-up fight and it goes to decision, this could be an ugly scoring fight, for that very reason. Neither one of these guys are prolific strikers. It looks like the most strikes, well, he did have a lot against Holtzman, but if you take out the Holtzman fight, it's 67 is the most significant strikes that were landed by Emmett. So neither one of these guys are high octane. And it looks like, his grappling has kind of tailed off. He got 8 takedowns against Holtzman and only has 1 takedown in his next 5 fights. So it doesn't look like Emmett's going to be. I still think that Bektik will have the wrestling advantage. I'm going to pick Bektik to win here, just because I think he realizes what he has to do. I'm not sure I love the move to TriStar. I wish he actually went back to ATT because,
stole my thunder. Just stole my thunder.
TriStar is kind of a point fighting gym where ATT is like the hottest gym right now in MMA. So that worries me a little bit, but I'm still going to take Bektik to win here.
Okay, Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, Amir Saad Bektik went to one of the not one of the worst gym for DFS there is. I don't really. I kind of think Josh Emmett might actually have a grappling advantage. Throwing around Scott Holtzman the way he did was impressive to me. I don't think Lamas hung in there. Maybe you won't have the advantage. It's even. I don't think Bektik has any kind of advantage that anybody could bank on, at least in my opinion. The biggest worry I have about Josh Emmett is the chin, which from 2 fights ago, that vicious knockout against Jeremy Stevens. We talked about it a lot leading up to the Michael Johnson fight, and he was definitely tentative for the first round. And that's always going to be the worry with him, at least until we see him take a couple clean shots in a fight. And Bektik could put him down. Skill for skill, though, I like Josh Emmett. Man, that dude hits hard. I think it's definitely the toughest test Mirsad Bektik is going to have as well. I don't like the camp move. Close fight, I lean Josh Emmett, but because of really the camp move and the pricing that either one of these guys could get a finish, give me the cheaper guy. I think Josh Emmett's the better play on DraftKings. Sign me up for Josh Emmett. Let's all hope his chin holds up.
Yeah, and speaking of chin issues, I said this in chat, but just I think it bears repeating on the pod. That's 7 knockdowns for Josh Emmett in his last 4 fights. Granted, 4 of those came in 1 fight, but he's had 1 knockdown in each subsequent fight. And look, speaking of chins, if you're worried about Bektik still coming off the Elkins thing, which I know some people are, I think that's something to take into consideration too. I do think Emmett is going to be super chalky, but that doesn't mean he is not worth a look. And I do think he is worth a look, and a strong one at that. But now we are coming up to the co-main event of the evening. It is the California Kid, the return of Urijah Faber.
Let's not waste time here, guys. We should not be wasting time.
He deserves a little bit of an intro. Come on. Urijah Faber coming back as a big dog at 6,900 against Ricky Simón at 9,300. Odds on this fight reflect the DraftKings pricing. Urijah Faber plus 305 comeback. Ricky Simón minus 335. As Sean alluded to there, I don't think there's a whole lot to say here. I think that history has shown when Urijah Faber can't get his takedown game going, he really struggles. I think that's going to be the case here. I think Simón's going to put a pace on him. I think Simón's boxing is ever improving. It might be a little tough for Simón to make that salary, but I think that he's going to have enough in his takedown game. Look, Faber hasn't really been taken down a lot, but every dedicated wrestler who has tried to take him down has been able to. Frankie Edgar, Dominic Cruz, etc. So I like Simón here, even at the elevated price. He is my pick. I don't think there's too much more to say. I will throw it to Joe to see if he has anything to add. Joe?
I was really impressed with what Simón did to Rani Yahya. I did not think he would be able to, 2 knockdowns, 4 takedowns, 2 advances, 103 DraftKings points. I like Simón here a fair bit. Faber, I don't think this is a really good matchup for him. I guess I don't understand. I get with 5 other alpha male fighters, you might as well have the leader fight, but I don't know why they didn't give him somebody beatable. I just think he could get embarrassed here in this fight by Simone. With that said, it's likely to go to decision. So in order for Simone to score and earn his 9.3K, he's going to have to get grappling points, which I think he can against Urijah Faber. It's just I would not count on a finish. That's the key here, which is why at 9.3K, I don't see him as good of a GPP play as, say, Mike Rodriguez. I would probably rather pay up the 100 and play Mike Rodriguez, but certainly I think he's probably the better cash play at 9.3K. But give me Rodriguez. I'm sorry, give me Simon.
Okay, give me Simon. And Sean, based on your intro, I take it you don't have much of a different take, but let's see. Let's throw it to you. What do you think about this?
No, I mean, we're on the same page. Can you imagine Ricky Simone putting a pace on a 40-year-old Urijah Faber? Like this, I know they're small guys, but I'm a little worried about it. Fighting's a young man's game, especially in the lower weight classes. It's just a matter, Joe hit it on it. How much is he going to score? Mix him in. I won't be overweight because he should be super chalky. No interest in Faber. Give me Ricky Simone.
Okay, well, as promised, that was a short and tidy sum up from Sean there, and that will take us to the main event of the evening. It is Aspen Ladd at 8,900 taking on a returning Germaine de Randamie at 7,300. The odds on your main event: Aspen Ladd is a minus 135 favorite. Germaine de Randamie plus 125 underdog. The big story coming out of weigh-ins today, if you aren't aware, Aspen Ladd had a rough cut. Not her first one. She was.
That's an understatement.
She was shivering on the scale. Having said that, we have seen her have these bad cuts and come into fights and look fine. But it is something to take advantage of. I'm sorry, to take note of. Little Freudian slip there, maybe. To take note of. As far as my pick goes, look, I think it's worth noting that everyone Aspen Ladd has fought in the UFC thus far have been people who are very willing to tangle up with her. You got even somebody like Lena Landsberg, who isn't a grappler, but she likes to tie up with you on the fence. And our other two opponents, Cezar Eubanks and who was it? Who was before Cezar, guys?
Evinger.
Tanya Evinger. Yeah. So they're all grapplers. They're all willing to tie up. That's Aspen Ladd's strength. She's not much of a boxer. She short arms a lot of her punches. I think GDR, although she's certainly not a fan favorite based on the whole cyborg stuff and not wanting to defend and all that, she's still a very skilled kickboxer. She keeps her range well, and she has been, I think Sean's going to have something to say about this, but the fact remains that she has been somebody to stuff takedowns of late, and she's been doing it with technique. She's very strong.
Come on.
I'm going to throw it to you. I promise. You're going to get the first one, but she's very strong. She, as I said, she keeps her range well, and I think her advantage is pretty overwhelming on the feet. Of course, if Ladd could get this down, it's a different fight. I expect her takedown defense to hold up. I think what Sean thinks about this, but we will throw it to him now to let him flesh that out a little bit. So have at it, Sean.
What's interesting is most people I've seen are picking GDR, but Ladd is still the favorite, which is interesting. We'll see how the line moves after the weigh-ins today. Look, obviously, de Randamie is the best striker Ladd has faced. Ladd is hittable. Germaine de Randamie, I don't have it in front of me. She has not faced good competition as of late outside of Holly Holm, a fight that I think she should have lost with those strikes late after the bell and close fight anyway. She stopped takedowns from Holly Holm, Anna Elmos. Like, Aspen Ladd is the best takedown threat in that bunch. What's interesting is when they get in, and de Randamie wants to be in the clinch. She does damage in the clinch. So what's going to be interesting here, at least to me, is when they're in the clinch, what happens? Is de Randamie getting a tied plum clinch and beating her up there, or is Aspen Ladd able to throw her around? That's really what I think. Where I think this fight comes down to. I was leaning Aspen Ladd. I'm trying to just digest what I saw at weigh-ins. That was ugly. but we saw this. I was telling Chris before we started, Cynthia Calvillo came to mind with how she looked at a weigh-in and then bounced back just fine. Lad has had tough cuts. Lad is strong. She gets on top of Durandamy. I think she's going to finish her. We have 5 rounds to work. Durandamy's just not a ton of output. She can go 5 rounds and score 70 points. She's done it before. So while people are confident in GDR, I think, especially in GPPs, I like Lad because no one's going to be on her. I'm a believer in her. She needs to get this nutrition and weight cut under control. I really like her skills. I'm not on the GDR train. So give me Lad. I will say in cash, I'm unsure enough that I think the stack is plenty viable because Durandamy is going to be very popular. And even, you know what, I will say in cash games, as much as I like Lad tournaments, in cash games, Durandamy is probably getting in the cash lineup before Lad.
Well, I am a big fan of the contrarian pay-up, so if you like Lad to get those takedowns, I don't personally, but if you do, it makes her a viable play. Joe, what do you think?
Well, GDR is now plus 120. At 7.3K, plus 120 is tremendous odds value. Tremendous odds value.
I think it's going to flip after because the weigh-in is going to keep going all the way tomorrow. I think it'll flip by
yeah. Now with that said, the ceiling is not great on GDR. Even if Lad comes in, like, I think that distance is her friend, which means that if she's smart, she'll clinch up, she'll kind of relax, she'll let Aspen Lad tire herself out. I don't believe Lad has ever been 5 rounds. At 7.3K, I'm picking upsets with these female fights. I got Nicco, and now I'm gonna pick GDR. The weigh-in kind of sealed it for me. How she looked at the weigh-ins sealed it. Would I be surprised if Lad just rides GDR down and ground and pounds her? No. However, Lad is not a great striker standing. Like all of her damage comes in ground and pound. So if she can't get her down, this could be a really ugly fight. And I could certainly see, GDR winning like a 3-2 type of decision over 5 and not scoring very well. With that said, that puts an incredible amount of risk on Aspen Lad at 8.9K, with the weight cut narrative. So I'm going to pick GDR at 7.3. But I would say, to Sean's point, GDR in cash and Aspen Lad in GPPs.
All right. And now it is time for everyone's favorite portion of the podcast. That is hot takes. I am going to start by reading one in the chat that caught my eye that I like a lot. This is from Dave Brianna. Hot take, highest scoring fighter will be under 8K, which I think is very interesting. Tom Green says Souza will be the slate breaker. So those are 2 interesting ones. Anybody got one? Anybody ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. All three female fights will be won by underdogs.
There you go.
We're going underdog heavy for this. I'm going to say the winning DraftKings lineup has 3 fighters priced 7,700 or below.
Okay.
And
money on the table.
I'm going to say that Sheymon Moraes gets his first finish in the UFC. Let's make it a second round knockout, head kick knockout of Andre Fili.
Awesome.
Cool.
And okay, guys, that is it for this edition of Fight IQ. I hope that you enjoyed my 1 week foray into the hosting arena here. Nothing broke, nothing exploded, so I feel like I did a pretty decent job.
Hey, hashtag bring Sniper back.
Hashtag get Sniper back here. Get back from that bachelor party in one piece, you maniac.
Hashtag the real Chris Olsen, get better headphones.
Well, that's for sure. Not only even for that, but they hurt my ear when they clamp. But that's another thing. Guys, do me a favor, if you like what you see here, like this podcast. If you see it on Twitter, give it a retweet, like, comment, subscribe to the RotoWire channel, all that good stuff. Get us out there, spread it like a virus. We really appreciate it. Again, all of us on Twitter. I am at Real Chris Olsen. Sean is at the DF Sniper, and Joe is at Sun Tzu. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for hanging out. And if you guys don't have anything else to say, I will just say enjoy the fights, and we'll see you next time.
Later, guys.
Out.